Peace, family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. Thank you for watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. We are on day 121 of Israel's war on Gaza. That's right. For 121 days, there has been a steady, nonstop bombardment of the Gaza Strip. And while it's framed as a war against Hamas, while it's formed in the public and international imagination as a necessary fight in the aftermath of October 7th, what we see instead is not just a response to the Hamas attacks of October 7th. We don't just see self-defense. In fact, we don't see self-defense at all at this point. What we see is genocide. What we see is a bloody, ugly, indefensible, disproportionate bombardment, outright siege and destruction of Gaza by the state of Israel, and with the complicity of the international community. And so what we're going to do every single day, is give you the latest updates on what's going on. Not what corporate media tells you, not what mainstream news outlets are giving you. We got some of that too, but more importantly, we're giving you the info that you're otherwise not going to get. And while we break that down for you, I want you to drop in your location. Give me your city, give me your state, give me your country. Let me know where exactly you're coming in from, and we will talk about it. I see people already writing in. Shout out to Edric Hapoy. Peace, family. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. Thank you for being a Marc Lamont Hill official member. You can hit the join button and become a member of the channel too. Get these shouts out all the time. Corey, you asked me to talk about UNRWA. Let me know specifically what you're thinking about with UNRWA. Sophia Martinez, exactly. The West Bank, we have to acknowledge as well. Shout out to you. We're going to be talking about the West Bank too. Every single day we bring up what's happening because it's no small thing. Shout out to you, Taqwa Abidi. Thank you so much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shout out to you, Upright Consultant from Houston. Shout out to you, Fadi Aoud. Thank you for coming in. Stephanie Marquez, always good to see you, family. Coming in from New York, Westchester in the building, not Westchester, PA, but Westchester County in Nueva York. See you. Issues in Memphis, Tennessee. Asturias, Spain is in the building. Old guy doing stuff. I like that handle, yo. I appreciate y'all so much. I appreciate y'all so much for coming in. I love seeing Beyond Ebony. She's always here. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Laith Evergreen in DC. Analdo from Virginia. Salem from JP from Salem, Oregon. Yo, we got people from all over. The old Greece from Canada, East Van, British Columbia. I see. Okay, Corey, I'm gonna answer your question about UNRWA for sure. Masood Rahman, back in Canada. All right, y'all. It's so good to see y'all. Let's get started. One more, Jimmy Zimzam from all the way from El Paso, Texas. I don't usually shout out people from Texas, but you are our family, so we love you. We're going to do that. Laith, again, thank you so much for your generosity and the love. We are grateful. We're grateful for all of those. Feel free to send in super chats, super questions, what do you call them? Super stickers, super chats. If you have a comment or question you want to throw in there, you could do that as well. Super stickers. We appreciate all of it. All of it. We're grateful for. All right, family. Let's get started, because today again is day 121, and in these 121 days, we've now seen more than 27,000 deaths. 27,000 deaths in the Gaza Strip. We've also seen more than 66,000 injuries. These numbers are devastating on their own. They're even more devastating when you realize just how vulnerable the populations that are being killed are. For example, two-thirds of the 27,000 Palestinians who've been killed in Gaza are women and children. 2 mothers get killed every hour in Gaza right now. These are real numbers, devastating numbers. 1% of the children in Gaza have been killed since October 7th. $19,000 children are without a parent or a guardian. 1.7 million people have been displaced. They're homeless. They're unhoused. The numbers are stunning. The numbers are devastating. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going. That's just the big picture. Let me give you some specifics. At least 92 people were killed overnight in the Gaza Strip in the south, in the area, the city of Rafah. As you know, people have been instructed even to go from the middle of Gaza, from the north to the middle to the south, the north to the south, and the Rafah is right there at the border between Egypt and Gaza. And people have been sheltering there. And those people who've been sheltered, of those people, 92 were killed last night. 92. And of that 92, two of them were children. Two children were hit in the attack. Israeli forces struck a kindergarten. Israeli forces hit a kindergarten. A kindergarten. I don't know how to say this. They hit a kindergarten. And when hitting that kindergarten, two children were killed on top of the other 90, for a total number of 92 Palestinians who were killed just in the Rafah, not in the whole region, just in Rafah. All right, let's keep going. Concerns over a potential Israeli ground incursion into Rafah has mounted in recent days. People are more and more scared, not just of a shell attack or a random hit airstrike, which is bad enough, but they're saying there might be a full ground invasion at the border of Rafah, with hundreds of thousands of people are now seeking refuge by making shelters and encampments out of like loose tent material, blankets, tin. They're finding whatever they can to make these makeshift shelters and encampments. It's quite scary to think about hundreds of thousands of people who are already homeless trying to find a new location because they're worried, not just about bombs falling, but an actual ground invasion where they'll be even more vulnerable. And we keep pretending this ain't genocide, y'all. A strike on a fuel tank near the European Gaza hospital in Khan Yunis killed one person. It also damaged hospital buildings. It's important to realize 50% of the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed since October 7th. Not the hospital buildings, not the school buildings, not the masajid, not the kanai, not the churches. 50% of all buildings. According to the Bisan Research and Development Center, Israeli soldiers continue to film themselves committing crimes even after an ICJ ruling ordered Israel to take action to prevent genocide in Gaza. So again, what we've been seeing, whether it's the person popping out of a wheelchair like a bad movie and attacking people in the hospital, whether it's the indiscriminate nature of the shootings, whether it's not giving people time to evacuate, whether it's not taking full measures to prevent the death or even the injury of the harm, the technical term or the specific term, on civilians, all of it are war crimes. And Israeli soldiers are videotaping it. They put on their TikToks. They put on YouTube. They air it on national media as a way of ginning up support. This is wild and unnecessary and completely avoidable. But how do you avoid it? Thank you, Fadi. I would شكرا كثير شكرا جزيلا للمساعدة للدعم. The United States is the key to this. As long as the United States continues to fund this, to provide the weapons, the money, and the political cover, we're going to continue to see this kind of outcome. It's that simple. It's that simple. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that he wants to see allegations that staff from the UN, specifically UNRWA, participated in October 7th attacks. He wants to see that stuff be fully examined, but he also said people in Gaza should not be left starving. That is the right position to take. All of us. Let me not speak for everybody. Everyone I speak to, everyone who's pro-Palestinian, who's in this fight, believes that if there were people in UNRWA who participated in the October 7th attacks, then yeah, UNRWA has a responsibility to deal with that. That should be investigated. They should be dealt with. There should be accountability and justice there. No one disagrees with that. But cutting an entire agency for that is Bizarre. Y'all are being so generous tonight. Omega, thank you so much, family. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you. That's how we keep the channel going with these donations. So I'm very, very grateful. I can't even tell you. You have no idea how grateful I am. Now, this might be a good time, Corey, if Corey's still there, or even if he's not, he'll come back through. But the question was, what is UNRWA? So let me answer that as I pivot back to the rest of these updates. UNRWA is the United Nations Relief Works Agency. UNRWA is the agency that provides the primary support for Palestinian refugees. UNRWA is not the only refugee agency. There is something called the UNHCR, or the United Nations High Court for Refugees, which is sort of the overarching body of refugees support for all refugees in all over the world. Right? There's UNHCR. But in the aftermath of the 1948 war, the Arab-Israeli War, as they call it, there was a specific need to address the 700,000 or 770,000 is probably a more accurate number. The 770,000 people who had just been displaced. That number of people that we pretend don't exist. When Israel was formed, it was formed by ethnically cleansing Palestine. And suddenly you had 700 plus thousand people who had no place to go. And so the UN created a resolution, I believe it was resolution 194, which created a coalition and a committee to achieve final settlement, right, between Israel and Palestine. To say, look, we got to get to a final status solution here, so that these 700,000 people, sorry, the room I'm in went dark, so that these 700,000 people who are here don't remain unsupported, don't remain invisible, don't remain homeless and stateless. That's what the UN RWA, or the United Nations Relief Works Agency, was created for. So it was created in 1949 after the Nakba, and then it went into full operation in 1950. And the idea was to provide the relief. Now, it's interesting, and I don't want to get into the weeds of this, because I can do a whole segment on what the UNHCR is if y'all want. I'm sorry, not the UNHCR, the United Nations Relief Works Agency. But one of the things I often talk about, I spent time in Tulkarm refugee camp a couple of years ago. I was working on a film. And one of the things that people often say in the camps, whether it's Tulkarm or Dahesha or Balata or any of the camps, is one of the worst things that happened was the tents turned into concrete. In other words, in 1948, people were in tents. They got depopulated from places like Wadi al Hawadith, and they ended up in Tulkarm, just as an example. And they were there in tents, literal tents. And the idea was, where are we going to go? Israel never let them in. Israel never made them citizens. And remember in 1948, the West Bank and the West Bank was under Jordanian control. Egypt controlled the Sinai and Gaza and all that stuff. And over time, they got permanent. Tents became concrete buildings. It was like, oh, y'all gonna be refugees forever. And then after 1967, you had even more refugees after the 1967 war. And UNRWA's role expanded even more. So now UNRWA isn't just responsible for the people in the old 48 lands, they're also responsible for some folk in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, in these other places. Because what happened in 1967, Israel took over the East Jerusalem. They took over the Sinai, they took over the Golan, they took over Gaza. This is the reality. And so once that happens, UNRWA is not just responsible for housing. UNRWA is responsible for education. UNRWA is responsible for the hospitals. UNRWA, even the small slice of UNRWA even does loans. UNRWA is the government. UNRWA is the support if you live in these places. And so to cut the funds of UNRWA is not a small thing. Cutting UNRWA for a Palestinian in the West Bank, if I live in Khalil or Beit Lahem, and if you cut all of it, as they have, then those people have nothing. You're effectively killing them. And to say that we're going to cut the funding from UNRWA because of the actions of 12 employees? 12? How is that not collective punishment? How is that not collective punishment? That's wild. That's all I can say. All right, a couple more things, and just to give you the final numbers. As of today, the death toll in Gaza for Palestinians is 27,238. 27,238. The death toll of Israelis has dropped. Remember, it was 1,400 people were killed. Then it was 1,200 people were killed. Well, the revised death toll now is 1,139. Still a huge number. Still an awful event. Still a tragedy. Still a crisis. Still a war crime. I'm just pointing out the disparity in death. 27,238 Palestinians, 1,139 Israelis. That's not even counting the 66,452 Palestinians who've been wounded in attacks. The West Bank, Israeli forces continue with nearly daily raids throughout. All throughout the West Bank, we see night raids, we see settler attacks. Despite Joe Biden's threats against settlers, we're still seeing more attacks, more danger. Overnight, Israeli soldiers stormed Beta in the south of Nablus, Araba, which is in the south of Jenin, which we just talked about, Shafat refugee camp, which is north of Jerusalem. It's in Jerusalem, actually. It's in the Jerusalem governorate. So it's in the northern Muhafazah, as they say, and a coffin in the north of Tulkarem, the city, not the refugee camp. So we are seeing raids and soldier storming throughout all of these places. It's pretty awful right now. Some updates for tomorrow. The UN Security Council is expected to hold an emergency meeting tomorrow to address these airstrikes in Iraq and Syria. I wonder if they'll address the fact that we're illegally in Syria and in Iraq in the first place. Who knows? Iran says the U.S. attacks inside Iraq and Syria are, quote, a strategic error that will only add to tensions and instability in the Middle East. Iran is correct. If they think, I can't speak to the strategic error because I don't know what the U.S.'s intentions really are, but I can tell you one thing. If you want peace in the Middle East, the way to get it is not to strike in Iraq, strike in Syria, bomb the Red Sea, attack the Yemenis, or specifically the Houthis, to fund the siege and the genocide in Gaza, to enable more violence in southern Lebanon, northern Israel. I mean, like, all of this stuff is we're seeing a widened how can I put it? A widened scope and range of unrest. It started in the Gaza Strip on October 7th, or on the undeclared borders of Israel. And now we're all over the Middle East, and it's not getting better. This is scary. This is scary. One more thing. On negotiations for the release of captives and a ceasefire in Gaza, a top Hamas official in Lebanon said that they needed more time to, quote, announce their position on a proposed framework. So basically, Hamas is saying, we saw your framework, we see your proposal, we'll get something back to you soon. I hope that Hamas responds very quickly, because At this point, we need a cease to the violence. That's the most important thing to me, is justice. Um, and whatever it takes to get us there, um, I'm willing to rock with. But justice um, isn't just some abstract idea. It has to be concrete. And I think we need to flesh out what justice is going to look like there. What does justice require in Gaza? I think justice requires, at this moment, if nothing else, an immediate ceasefire, an end to the genocide in Gaza. Until that happens, I don't know. I don't know what we can do or how we can do it. Anyway, family, I want to thank y'all for watching. I want to thank y'all for all these generous donations. Please feel free to continue to support the channel. I see a couple of questions coming in I'm going to address really fast. On yours and Taylor Morgan said, who do you recommend voting for when Biden refuses to listen to us on this? I'm leaning to Marianne Williamson. Your thoughts? I haven't made a decision yet, but I'll tell you this. Anybody, especially Arabs, especially Palestinians, but anybody who says, I can't pull the lever for Biden as he continues to prosecute a genocidal war or enable the prosecution of a genocidal war, I ain't arguing that shit. I'm not gonna cape for Biden. I get why people feel that way. We can have debates about what's practical, what's pragmatic, what's best outcome, given our available options, short term, long term. We can do all of that. But what I can say right now is the Democrats have done nothing to earn the benefit of the doubt. In fact, they've erased all doubt. There's nothing, no doubt to benefit from. This is awful. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. Could you explain a brick wall construction at Rafah to prevent Palestinians from on-chatting to Egyptian soldiers? Why? I'm not clear. When I think about the brick wall construction at that border, I think about it as part of a broader long-term plan that involves getting Palestinians to the other side of it. The so-called humanitarian corridor becomes a one-way exit that leads to another Nakba. That's my concern. You know, not wanting communication or limiting communication between Egypt and Palestine could be a reason. It's a bit curious to me, but I can't say it ain't true. We just don't know. I don't know. Would you do a live on the truth about Hamas? I need to push back against thinking they're responsible for all life conditions and attacks. Absolutely. We've done some before, but I'd love to do another live on it. Hamas is a very complicated organization. It is the ruling power. It is the state power on record. It is the government. It was democratically elected. It also violates international law. But why? How? Yes, Palestinians live in terrible conditions in Gaza. It's unlivable. But are we blaming that on Hamas? Are we blaming that on the Israeli government? Are we blaming that on the U.S.? The narrative is that Hamas is the sole ruler of Gaza. Whenever we talk about anything bad, Israel left in 2006 and left them with an opportunity to build paradise, and instead they chose Hamas. That's the AIPAC / Democratic Party / Republican Party talking point. We have to talk past that, think past that, and recognize that Israel continues to control the destiny of Gaza. They border Gaza. They control the population registered aeromagnetic sphere. They control Gaza by land, air, and sea. There's no doubt that Israel controls Gaza. They control the dietary intake. I mean, they control everything. So how are you going to control everything, including at the Rafah border with security coordination with Egypt? How do you control everything and then say Hamas, or Palestinians rather, brought this on themselves? Nah, this is complicated, and we're going to treat it like it's complicated. That's our job as thinkers, as critics, as voters, as scholars, as academics, whatever you are. We all got to ask tough questions. We're going to do that right here on the channel. So I want to thank y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Some of y'all, a lot of y'all have been sending in these super chats, these super stickers, all this stuff. We are so grateful for it. I can't lie to you, man. For this channel to thrive, we need your financial support. So that's great. The steadiest of financial support comes from people who join, who become members, whether it's a bronze membership or a diamond membership. By joining, you contribute monthly to, it's just a few dollars, but you control monthly to, you contribute regularly and immensely to the formation of this channel, the sustaining of what we're trying to do here. We're grateful for it. If you want, also hit Cash App. You know, Cash App cuts out YouTube. It gives us all the full 100% of your donations. And with your donations, we're building studio space. We're creating more content. We're adding more voices to the channel. We're adding other platforms that will create the space for radical voices, political education, etc. Nancy Tahar, thank you so much for joining the channel. That's what I'm talking about. That's the support I'm talking about. That's the love that I'm talking about. Sailor Jerry, thank you so much. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for your contribution and for you becoming a member. You have no idea if that's what you just did. We're grateful for that. Are you still on Al Jazeera? I sure am. I just on the new season started 3 days ago. If you go online, you can see the conversation I just had with Francesca Albanese, who is the UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied territories, the Palestinian occupied territories. Check the interview out. I also spoke to the South African ambassador to the United States, who talked about what's going on in Israel, and he talked about South Africa's decision to bring Israel to the International Court of Justice. It breaks the whole thing down. It is pretty dope. So yes, I'm glad to be back on Upfront. Make sure you check it out. Appreciate y'all, family. I love y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.